Hi, I'm Kathy Tadaldi, and I work at the Denham Springs-Walker Branch Library with the Livingston Parish. And today I'm going to show you how to make these gorgeous roses. And they're much easier than you would think. Here, I'll move them up forward so you can see. Some of these are in different states of being finished, and I'm going to show you how you can do them. They are made out of coffee. Oh, and I made some little ones too. I'm going to show you how to do those. I made them out of coffee filters. You take a coffee filter, it's the cone type of coffee filters, not the round ones. Apparently the round ones are too thin. I tried it with the round ones, and you have to get it wet to color them. Now the white one, I didn't wet it because it's just a white rose, and so I didn't color it. But when you dye it, you dye it with food color. And when you dip it in the water, the round regular coffee filters, they get too limp. And so these hold their shape better. So this is the kind of coffee filter to get. And I'm going to show you exactly what it takes to make one. It's very easy. You start out with your filter, and you're going to cut the crimped part. You're going to cut the crimped part off. You don't need that part. So you're going to cut the bottom and the side right off. It takes 4 coffee filters to make one rose. The little roses only take 1, and I'm going to show you that in a minute. But for now, we're going to just concentrate on the big one. I recommend you practice with the big ones first because it's easier to get the hang of what you're doing. They're not hard to do, but it's just, I practiced on these before I did the small ones. Because the small ones are just, you're just a little, it's just a little more tricky to get into the tight spaces. All right, so I've cut off the crimped edges. So I just have the coffee filter with no edge. Now you're going to fold it over like that, and you're going to cut it like an ice cream cone. If you remember the video a while back where I showed you how to cut out the perfect heart, well, it's like that, only without the point on the end. I'm leaving about 2/3 at the bottom, and I'm cutting about the top third. Now I'm not measuring because you can make them big or you can make them little, but you're going to cut around, like I said, just like an ice cream cone. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Mother Nature isn't perfect. And whenever you get 4 of these together and start arranging them, it doesn't matter. So what you're going to have is a piece of paper when you open it up all the way that looks like this. And you want 4 of them. So, like I said, you fold it in half. I'm going to do 3 more real quick. Cut off the top third. I'm not measuring it, just eyeballing it. There's 1. Two. 3. All right. Now I'm ready to start putting them on the stem. I've opened them up flat here so they're ready to go. The stem, I used pipe cleaners. I tried it with just 1, and then I tried it with 2. And the best thing that I found to keep it firm enough is to use 3 pipe cleaners, and you just kind of twist them together to make them stay. Gives them a little strength, makes it a little sturdier that way. And I'm going to cover it with floral tape. If you have floral tape. Now you can just use a green pipe cleaner if you don't mind it looking fuzzy like that, but if you want the finished look, you can use floral tape over it at the end. Okay, so I crimped the bottom so that those little pointy ends of the pipe cleaner don't stick me. And at the top, I'm going to crimp it twice. I'm going to crimp it once, and then I'm going to roll it over a second time. Because what I want is a little knob up here to keep the filter from coming off. I'm going to tape it just below that knob. You see how I bent it twice? That gives it a little thickness at the top. Now, I use masking tape to tape the flowers on, okay? And I already cut some strips here to tape around the bottom. Before I tape it though, I'm going to pinch it and put it around the top. Now, I'll show you a little trick. The very first one, let's see, which one of these has the green showing? Okay, this rose, this is one of my early ones. This one, everything about it was just lovely, except you can see the green pipe cleaner in the middle. I don't know if you can see that on the video, but right in the middle, it looks like a green pipe cleaner knot. So what I learned to do was on my very first, when I first start wrapping it, I fold the first petal over. I fold it in half so that it's going to cover, I pinch it over so that it's going to cover that pipe cleaner so it won't show in the middle. So I sit the pipe cleaner in that little V right there, and then I start wrapping the petals. Now what you want to do is you want to kind of gather it and crimp it as you go. Kind of, a sewing term would be pinch pleats. You make little pinch pleats around, and you just go round and round. The knot is up inside of here. You're pinching it around just underneath that knot. And you're just gathering it a little bit with your fingers, squinching it, that's the official term. You're squinching it up as you go. So that's the first one. Now I'm going to take a piece of tape. Now I do a little trick with the tape. I fold it in half, you see. That way I've got a little sticky on the outside and a little sticky on the inside. And I just go around the base of where I just crimped all those petals. And I'm going to go around the base and tape it nice and tightly. Actually, I got a little more than I need, so I'm going to cut the extra off. Okay, so now it's taped in place, and I'm ready to put the second one on. I'm going to do exactly the same thing. Now be careful. One thing I did, I'm going to show you my little, my little early errors. This one, I kept moving the petals down and down and down, and it came out in layers almost. And so roses don't really grow that way. So I would caution you to make sure that you tape the next row on right exactly where you start, where the last petal ended, and you just lay it right over that one, and you start doing the same thing at the same level. You just pinch it, and it's going to stick to that masking tape as you go around. That helps to keep it sturdy, steady, in place. So you go around, just gently gathering it a little bit as you go. Scrunch, scrunch, scrunch. Okay, there is number two, layer number two. Take another piece of tape, same thing, fold it in half, and tape around the bottom. You're getting a little thickness there because you just taped it on top of the last one. Once again, I got a little more tape than I need, so I'm going to trim it off too. All right, that's two layers. You see, you're starting to get a rose there instead of a coffee filter. So, second one, a third one. Once again, same thing. Start where you left off with the last one. Stick it to the tape. And just start scrunching it. Going around, slightly gathering it at the bottom. Little pleats. You might want to take your thumb and turn it in the right direction. We're almost done. The fourth layer is the last one. Another piece of tape. Right around the bottom. Next time I'll know to make my tape pieces a little shorter. All right, I'm getting there. And here is the final wrap. You just want to cup it so the petals are going in the right direction as you go around and around with it. Scrunching it up. All right, last piece of tape. You're not gonna fold this one in half. You're just gonna wrap it right around the bottom, nice and tight. And you're gonna cover it with floral tape, but for this purpose, for our purposes, we're just wanting to hold the paper on. So, there's the beginnings of your rose. You got your coffee filter all taped on. You see how it looks like petals. We're gonna do something else with it now. I'm gonna show you how to dye it, and also how to roll the sides. Now, this one is one that didn't get dyed, and I rolled the edges on it. Here is, let me see if I have one I haven't rolled yet. Well, they've mostly been done. I was going to dye it first. Okay, we'll show you. Now, you take some water, and yellow, I'm going to do a yellow rose. I use about 12 or 15, this is about a cup of water, and I use about 12 or 15 drops. And you can do quite a few flowers in this cup of water. And I've got a couple of stirring sticks here. Sit it here. And you just dip. Now this is why the other coffee filter doesn't work. I think I mentioned it just goes too flimsy and limp when you wet it. But you take your rose, before you curl back the edges, you take your rose and you dip it in to the cup full of dye. And you just kind of go around and make sure the whole rose gets wet. Okay, now that's really it for coloring it. You want to put it somewhere where it's not going to drip on anything important, because it is food dye. I've got this little tray here. I'm going to lay it here. You can either hang it or stand it up. You get different effects. This one, I stood it up. Let's see. One of them I hung and one of them I stood up. And the marbling, sometimes it marbles. And, oh, this is fun. I ran out of red food dye, and I wanted to go for a darker color. I used black cherry Kool-Aid without the sugar to dye this one. I just dumped the Kool-Aid into a cup of water, and I used that to dye it. And you've got these dark blue shades where the black part of the black cherry came through. Had a really nice effect. So you play around with it. You can also take your, if you have some watercolor paints at home, you can, at this point, while your flower is wet, you can take a little color and add to it if you want to. This little one here, I had in mind something like a peace rose, you know, with the orange centers. And so I took some orange paint, and I did it at the bottoms. And you can just kind of play around with it for different effects, because the wetness is going to make it spread out and have different colors. So you can take your watercolors or food color or even a water-based marker and add color to your flower, and then after it dries, see what it comes out looking like, okay? That's a lot of fun to play around with the colors. So that's how you color it. Now, I'm going to show you how I curled the edges. Oh, here's one. Didn't get curled yet. That's what I was looking for. This one has not, it doesn't look as much like a rose. It doesn't look as pretty as these. And let me show you what you do. After it dries, now I would say you could leave it overnight, but it actually dries faster than that. It'll be dry in a couple hours. But if you leave it overnight, when you go back and you want to make it look like a rose, I use the end of a paintbrush, because I have lots of paintbrushes. You can also use that coffee stirrer I was just using, but you want something about that size. A pencil is a little too large. You want something small and round to curl the edges to make it look like a rose. And you want to do first one side and then the other. So you start on one side and you just roll it around the paintbrush. And when you let go, it kind of keeps its shape. You don't have to spray. I mean, yeah, you could spray it. I haven't sprayed these, and they seem to be holding up just fine. You go around and first roll one side, then the other. I made several at one time, and I found that it's actually a little faster to go around and do all left sides and then go back and do all right sides, because you don't have to keep turning the rose. But you don't have to go all the way to the center. I would say halfway is good, because in nature, you know, they don't start rolling outward like that until they have room to do it. So the middle ones are supposed to be tight. And then after I've gotten one side done, I turn it and I go back around and do all the ones on the left-hand side. If you did the right-hand side first, then go counterclockwise and do all the ones on the right-hand side. And they stay pretty good. Like I said, it doesn't take much for them to keep their curl. Can you see what a difference it's making? I'm not quite finished, but curling it is what makes it look so authentic. That's what gives it that rose look. I was so surprised at how easy it was to do. I think you'll have fun with it. Gives it a little volume to to roll out the edges like this. Okay, see now it looks like it's been opened up. And you have to do this after it's dry. But like I said, it doesn't take that long to dry. And as you can see, it's pretty with different colors. Oh, I'm going to do the floral tape. This one is a good one to practice on. I'll show you how you do that. If you get some floral tape, it's not expensive. You can buy it at any craft store. And the more you stretch it, the better it sticks. So I'm going to start right up at the base of the rose here. Kind of start at a little bit of an angle and stretch it a little bit. Wrap it around the base of the rose, and then angle it downward and start going around the rose down into the stem. Now this one I only used 2 pipe cleaners, so it looks kind of skinny. That's one of the reasons why I went to using 3, because it looks more natural with the 3 pipe cleaners. And then I also decided the first couple that I made, I didn't have leaves. So I made some leaves. I just cut out a leaf, made up the pattern and cut it out. I did use, you might want, I have colored pencils over here and some green pens that I used. I painted these with green watercolor. You can see the green that I started with was too light. It wasn't very dark. And so I painted over it with a darker green. And then I penciled in, I used the pens to make some veins, to make it a little more realistic. And you just lay the leaf down and wrap the green tape, the floral tape, right on top of it. And it'll hold it in place. And then you keep going until you get to the bottom. Cover the bottom and then come back a little bit. And once again, the more you stretch it, the more it sticks. So right at the end, you want to stretch it as you're putting that last bit on so it'll stay in place. It's got a little bit of sticky to it, but not much. And then you can fold your leaf. If you want to do it before you put it on or afterwards, you can bend your leaf and make it look a little more natural. And there you have it. That's the. I'm also going to show you what I did to make the little ones, because it's the same thing, only smaller, but I'm going to show you how I cut out the filter. And it's fun and it's quick, and I really enjoy it. I've got people wanting me to make some for them, and it's real easy. So for the smaller one, you just use 1 filter. Once again, we're going to cut off the crimped part because that doesn't look very natural. It doesn't look very rose-like. So we're going to cut off the edge that holds it together. So you've got a coffee filter that opens up. And for this one, I'm going to cut it in half. I'm going to make 2 layers out of it, okay? I didn't really measure it. I'm just kind of eyeballing it because I'm going to cut it up more anyway. This one, instead of folding it once, I'm going to fold it twice. So I'm folding it in thirds, see? And everything else is just the same. It's just on a smaller, it's proportioned smaller because it's going to be a smaller rose. So I cut it, round off the edges, kind of like an ice cream cone. And when you open that up, you've got 6 petals. Now this one, I'm going to fold it in half once and in half again. So I'm going to end up with 8 petals. Once again, I'm just going to cut it, round it at the top. And open it up. And I'm going to do the exact same thing that I did with the other one. Here's my pipe cleaner. I'm going to fold it over twice so it's got a little knot to hold on to. Get my tape ready here. Don't need as much tape because I've only got 2 pieces of paper. Once you've done 1 or 2 of these, it goes really fast. You kind of get the hang of it and you just kind of spin and twist and scrunch it as you go. So that's the first one. You do want to put your tape in half to go around it. So you've got a sticky side on the inside and a sticky side on the outside. You see it's the same as the other one, only smaller. And then this one is a long one, so you just have to be careful that you're holding it well with your fingers because you're going to go a long time before you put the second piece of tape on. But you are going to keep gathering it as you go and crimping it with your fingers. It kind of holds its shape pretty well when you're doing it that way. When I first started making them, I wasn't putting that extra layer of tape on. I just put it on the very end. But I found that it helped a little. It was easier to work with if you tape it as you go. But with the smaller one, it still works just fine. Almost there. There you go, all scrunched in. Last piece of tape, doesn't have to be folded in half. Just wrap it around at the base. See? It's really easy. And once again, you dip it in your, you can do, like I said, if you want to make a half a dozen for a little bouquet, you can use the same food color over and over. And I'm going to let that one dry. And tomorrow I'll go back and roll the edges just like I did on the big one. See, this one actually hasn't had the edges rolled, but it's the same thing. This one has been finished and this one hasn't. It needs the floral tape and the edges rolled. Well, I hope you enjoyed watching how to make these beautiful flowers. I was surprised at how lovely they turned out, and I was surprised at how easy it was to make them turn out so lovely. So I hope you have good luck with them, and I hope you enjoyed it. And remember to stay happy, stay healthy, and keep reading.